Now, it was a deal that was supposed to link a market of 500 million people with the world's 10th biggest economy, but a small part of Belgium has stopped it. The EU's planned free trade agreement with Canada looks likely to come to nothing after 7 years of negotiations. The key sticking points are demands from the Belgian region of Wallonia, as Adefemi Akinsanya reports.
Forget Brexit, Belgium has become the latest thorn in the EU side. The comprehensive economic and trade agreement between Europe and Canada had been a long time coming. Promising to make Europe more than $6 billion richer every year, it's the most ambitious trade pact in the EU's 66-year history. The Canadian Prime Minister was supposed to fly to Brussels on Thursday to sign the pact, but at the final hurdle, one of the smallest regions has created a big problem.
We made it clear we were not in a position to say yes in the current circumstances, but we remain ready to discuss. But there is clearly no will to discuss, which is a shame.
There are 28 countries in the European Union, including the UK. 27 have agreed to back the trade deal with Canada. Belgium is the only exception. Split into 6 regional governments across the Flemish and French divide, it's Wallonia, in the southern section of the country, that's refusing to heed to the EU's ultimatum. And without the consent of all 6 governments, Belgium cannot back the pact, and neither can Europe. It's music to the ears of Wallonia's citizens who think the deal is bad for Europe's farmers and is more beneficial to corporate interests.
C'est absolument antidémocratique.
It's completely undemocratic. There are no other words. It's a treaty that has been negotiated secretly for years now. And now, when a government requests to speak about some points that seem impossible for them to agree to, they face ultimatums, threats, the Walloons, all that.
But it's a huge blow to Canada.
I think they're disappointed that in all likelihood the EU-Canada summit will not take place this week. Or at least that Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is not going to make it.
With the deal dead in the water and effectively 27 member nations being held hostage by one region, the functionality of the European Union could be flawed. Adefemi Akinsanya, TRT World.
Well, to dig down into this deal's implications, our editor-at-large, Craig Copetas, joins us now live from Paris. Craig, just quickly, let's look at the Canadian side. We will talk about the EU, obviously. How upset do you think they'll be that this has fallen through?
Well, they're upset, but Wallonia killing the deal has nothing to do with Canada. It has everything to do with the leaders of the member nations of the European Union. Canada is just the unfortunate victim here.
So let's talk about the detail then. What exactly does this say about the EU's ability to function as a cohesive bloc? Because, you know, as Adefemi's package rightly pointed out there, it's a 28-member nation. A small part of Belgium, just 3.5 million people, has scuppered this.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. Look, Brussels is not the jewel in the European Union crown. Brussels is a city of regulators. Mm-hmm. The people who are there asking Brussels to save the EU is no different than staring at an overcooked meatball and asking it for ways to make the cow more dead. It doesn't work that way. Brussels and the leaders, political leaders of the member states of the EU had 7 years to isolate this problem, and they did not. Now, that tells me that more than a few people were not doing their job, and tells you why the people of Wallonia don't want this deal and why the British voted for Brexit.
I mean, if we do want to characterise this as a failure, and we should point out as well, this is actually democracy in action, as some would argue, do you think there is any prospect of the EU trying to change the way that it functions in order to make sure that things like this don't happen in the future?
Well, they can't. They are hamstrung. Again, policies to conclude these sorts of deals, I can't repeat this often enough, do not come from Brussels, a town of regulators. They come from the leaders of the member states. And these folks are all over the place on what to do. And what's curious about this is that throughout the history of the EU, the member states knew that there would be problems down the road, like this deal with Canada, and they didn't lift a finger to do due diligence or try to prevent it from happening. And people ask why everyone's fed up with the EU.
Right. OK, well, Craig, we will, of course, be paying attention closely to what happens next. For now, thank you very much.